Another derelict pile of garbage saved from the crusher. This is a 1950 Chevrolet 1-ton with the super duper extra long bed model. It's got a 9-foot bed on it. Unfortunately, most of the body panels have been plundered by pirates. As most of you know, piracy is a real problem here in Saskatchewan. Fortunately, it does come with a couple extra panels. And this is the deluxe cab, 5-window model, complete with mouse nest. Very good to see that. Overall, though, not really terrible. You know, I've got pretty low standards, though, so... But it seems to still have kind of floors and stuff in it. It's not completely deteriorated. And this has a 235 in it, but it's an early 235 with Babbitt bearings. And it was last on the road apparently in 1977, so this thing's been parked for a long, long time. So, I don't know. Do you think we should try and fix it up a bit? I think we should. Like I said, the cab's not too bad, but it does have the old door flinging open damage. Can't have one of these trucks without a big, massive dent in the cowl, it seems. But other than this and a few spots here and there, it's really not terrible. Got the cool necker knob on the wheel. And of course, it does need cab corners, as they all do. And, ooh, how's that? A little bit of collision damage there. Don't think we need to fix that. So before I do much of anything on these old engines, I like to just go ahead and lubricate all the various points of interest and also clean up all the electrical connections, the grounds and what have you, especially because we're going to be running 6 volts, so it just makes everything go so much easier. Here's a lesson I've learned the hard way. Before I try turning the engine over or doing much of anything, I like to just go ahead and remove the flywheel cover. Should be fairly easy to see why. So off camera, I had already filled all the cylinders up with ATF and I'd been letting them soak for a few days. I decided it'd be a good idea to remove the valve cover and just check for any stuck valves, and also just pre-oil everything on the top end, seeing as this thing had obviously been sitting for quite some time. Once everything seemed okay, I decided to crank it over by hand and just make sure everything is moving. And I like to start out by cranking it by hand just so that I don't bend any push rods or break anything that doesn't need to be broken. Of course, later on this all proved to be a colossal waste of time, but at least we can say we tried. This is what I got for a driver's door. We got this skin here, which is slightly decayed. And then we got this heavily decayed, you know, inner panel here that's also missing a few critical components. Anybody out there is wondering, Lucas oil stabilizer will not fix a rod knock on your babbited Chevy 235. Now it says here in engines you can use 20%, however in badly worn engines you can use up to 60%. So naturally we use the full 60%, and it did not remove our knock. It says it raises oil pressure, will not sludge or varnish, ensures against oil breakdown, stops smoking, leaking, knocking, and oil consumption. Well, it did slightly raise the oil pressure, but gotta say, when it knocks bad enough that you can hear it when it's just cranking over with a 6-volt starter. I don't think there's really any oil in the world that will fix that. Those engines do have shims that can be removed when the BAPA starts to get worn, but in that case of that truck, it was probably driven with a rod knock for who knows how long, and once it starts wallowing itself out, there's no amount of shim removal that is going to help it. And here in Saskatchewan, somebody's probably already removed all the shims and filed down the rods, and or in this case it's Saskatchewan, so they probably took an angle grinder to the rods and just anything they could to get every last little bit of life out of that engine. And now we know why it was parked. Good day. My name is Kyle, and I'm a compulsive hoarder of scummy old trucks. So I don't know if we'd classify that as a victory or not. I mean, it did move for the first time since 1977. We saved another piece of garbage, or several pieces of garbage, from the crusher, so that's a win. Downside is somehow this year or this summer I have to find time to do an engine swap. Like I said, I do have a 216, but I don't know if it's any good or not either. So I think what I'm going to do is use my brain a little bit. I'm going to build an engine run stand. I'm going to see if I can get that 216 running, and if it runs halfway decent, we'll put that in the 1950 Chevy 1-ton, because, believe it or not, I do have plans for that truck, not this year, but sometime in the future. I do want to put that truck back on the road where it belongs, scaring innocent people and such. It is, I absolutely love that truck. I just think it's fantastic. Well, not that truck in particular, but my favorite advanced design is the 1-ton with the super duper 9-foot long bed. That's the truck that I want for myself. And I think it'll also be fun to have a stock truck to compare to the chicken truck, park it next to it, and we can see how drastically modified it all is. So I'm not going to restore it. It's going to stay all scummy and multicolored. I love it that way. That's the way I want it to be. And plus it's too rough to bother restoring. You can just buy a good one for what it would cost to actually fully repair it. But I do want to repair things that need to be repaired, like brakes and probably engine and whatever else, lights and all that. Make it like actually safe. There's the cab doesn't need a lot of welding, but you know, it still needs cab corners, and the rear fenders need a bunch of welding. I need to put side skirts in for the running boards and whatever, and so it does need work. And at the moment, obviously, we got too much on the go, but I do plan on keeping that truck for myself. The other reason that I want to keep that truck for myself is I really need like a vehicle for pushing or pulling or dragging stuff around the yard. I've been using my Malibu for that, and it's not really cut out for that kind of work. So truck with the granny low on it and a big old heavy duty thing like that will work awesome for moving junk around that doesn't run, or just pushing things or whatever. And that's also another reason why I don't want to fully restore it, because it's going to be getting used as a truck again. So if you enjoyed this, please consider sharing this video with all your friends so we can get more views on it. And if you don't have any friends, just hijack a bus full of people and force them to watch this video on repeat for as long as it takes to get the views that I need to at least break even on this video, which probably isn't going to happen. I did waste a fair amount of money on this, getting this thing going. You know, fuel pump and plug wires and plugs and all that, I'm not too worried about, because I can use that on any engine. I can just pull it off and reuse it. But I did waste a fair bit on oil and such, so that was a bit of a letdown. And I guess I could have avoided buying the snake oil, but you know, you never know. You got to try it. So for the 3 people watching that actually care, the way that I tell if an engine is a 235 or not is I go by the side cover here. On a 235, it only goes about halfway up, whereas on a 216, it goes all the way up. And I don't go by the valve cover because they are interchangeable between a 216 and a 235. The way I tell if this is a full pressure engine or not is you can see this little cover down here. It's called a kidney bean apparently, and that tells me that this is a Babbitt engine, whereas a full pressure engine doesn't have this on sticking out the side there. So that's how you tell. I do want to give a big thank you to our friend Tom, who sent this wonderful package of some pretty heavy duty Clecos here and drill bits and all kinds of neat stuff here. Tom was apparently a missile mechanic, and so this is stuff that he used, and it's like super high quality. These have a lot more gripping power than regular Clecos, so I'm really looking forward to testing this stuff out and using it. It's far too nice for the kind of stuff we work on, but very generous donation from our friend Tom, so thank you again, Tom. So, a bit of an update on the 1935 Chevy Master. As longtime viewers will know, the differential in the blue car we discovered is completely ruined. So I pulled the cover off the differential in the parts car, and I'm not a mechanic, but it appears to be in substantially better condition than what we have in the other car. So I decided to go ahead and pull it out, and we can't get away without spending money completely because I still have to do axle seals and wheel bearings, as well as the front bushing and seal on the torque tube. But other than that, I'm hoping this differential will get us through the summer, if not possibly even longer. So our friend and French correspondent, Brick Tavern, was asking in one of my previous videos about the wooden structure in these old Chevys. So I just thought I'd show how much wood is in these cars. You can see the entire structure of the door is wood, and all the wood has rotted away, which is pretty common on these cars that have sat around. The door posts, like door pillars, all of it is all made of wood, just skinned over with a thin piece of steel, but the structure itself is all wood. And so definitely something to keep an eye out if you're thinking about getting one of these cars as a project, is that they are not for the faint of heart. And the sub rails as well are all wood, and so once the wood goes, the car is essentially a parts car, unfortunately, unless it's something desirable like a coupe or roadster. You can see again, not much holding this car together anymore, unfortunately. And here's a look at an exploded view of the wood structure in a 1935. This is in the assembly or service manual. And this is, of course, a two-door, so the four-door has even more wood, but you can see the door pillars here. All this structure going to the back is all wood. Rear windows framed out. Side rails are wood. Sub rails down through here are wood. The cowl on the 1935 Masters, this was a transition year where they were starting to phase out the wood, so the cowl is in fact all steel. The floor pan itself is steel, but again it's just nailed to the wood substructure underneath. So this is how the cars were built. 1936 was the last year for this style construction. 1937 they went to an all steel body. So if you are looking for a pre-war Chevrolet, the 1937 is a much better car, not only structurally, but mechanically as well. If you're broken in the head, like I am, and you like these early 1936 and older Chevrolets, I would recommend buying a good one rather than a basket case, unless you're experienced with woodworking or fabrication, and well, you also need some experience with aligning bodies because you're going to be basically reconstructing the entire body from scratch if you decide to restore one of these. So that is the story on this, and this is also one of the reasons why you don't see very many pre-1936 Chevrolets. I do just want to take a moment here and give a big thank you to all of the people on Patreon who have been helping to keep the show on the air, as well as the folks who have been sending in donations, whether it's via PayPal or the super thanks or super chat buttons. We've been getting some unbelievably generous donations from that lately, and as well as our long time patrons who have been, again, keeping the show on the air. As I have complained in the past, the ad revenue and the views on YouTube during the summer months are pretty dismal, and in the past I've had to take off the summer because it just wasn't even worth my time. But thanks to some very generous people, I am trying my best to continue producing episodes during the summer and continue working on these projects during the summer. And we're going to keep going again for June or whatever month this is. We're going to keep trying to crank out videos, and we'll see how it does. Again, this is largely thanks to the people who are on Patreon and the people sending in donations. So I really can't thank them enough for their support of the show. And thanks as well to all of you for watching as usual, and those who sit through the ads. It does help. Those who have shared the video with their friends, or again, every little bit helps. So thank you again to all the loyal viewers as well. I do appreciate each and every one of you. Anyways, enough talking. Let's clean up my garage here, and we'll see you next week, hopefully, on the chicken truck.